What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to break down 10 players that you guys are panicking about. And in the Discord on Twitter, I reached out and I said, which guys are you guys concerned for? I'm going to break down 10 players that you guys indicated to me that you are legitimately concerned for. And I'll tell you whether that concern is valid or whether that concern is maybe a bit of an overreaction. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a Saturday therapy session here. Thought this was a fun new video idea. If you guys enjoy it, again, let me know in the comments down below. And also, let me know what you guys would like to see in the future. I am a man of the people. If you guys want to see a certain video idea that I'm not currently doing, definitely open to switching up the schedule a little bit. So if you guys enjoy at any point, leave a like. As always, sub to the channel. If you're new around here, if this is the first video of ours you're checking out, I promise you, you will not regret it. But without further ado, let's hit the intro. All right, so we're going to play a little bit of deal or no deal. Deal meaning basically don't panic about this player. They're going to be just fine. It's just a matter of bad luck, it's inconsistency, or you guys maybe are overreacting to their bad performance. No deal meaning, yes, it's absolutely time to panic, and you should probably be looking to sell that player, drop that player, whatever the case is. So the first guy, by far, the most popular response was Elijah Moore. And I share the sentiment. I have him on my home league team. So to catch you guys up, if you've been living under a rock the last week and maybe you actually just have lives and you don't obsess about football like I do, but Elijah Moore has been very underwhelming this year, right? He's averaging 4.83 targets per game on the season with only 8 targets over the last 3 games that Zach Wilson has started as the Jets quarterback. This prompted Elijah Moore basically to express his frustrations with the team on Twitter. Apparently, he had an outburst in practice. He requested a trade, all this stuff that is not necessarily what you want to see out of Elijah Moore. But in my opinion, the Jets are doing the right thing right now. They benched him this week. Basically, they said, you're going to be inactive because, we've won 3 straight games, and here you are complaining about how many targets you're getting. And validly so, Elijah Moore is not being used correctly. They're using him only at X. They're not moving him around the formation into the slot at Z, whatever the case is. But Elijah Moore himself has not played to his highest standard that we saw from him last year. His PFF receiving grade is down from his rookie season to 73.8 to 58.3. His yards per route run down from 1.75 to 0.91. He's not necessarily in the wrong by saying he's being used incorrectly, but he's also not playing at a very, very high level either. So I think kind of both parties are at fault here. I don't know how this will end. I don't think the Jets will trade him. I don't think they're going to grant his trade request. He's still a young player. They think he's a building block. Here's hoping that Elijah Moore just, has a sit down with the team. They talk it out like mature adults, and the Jets will start to throw the ball more. And Elijah Moore hopefully will start playing better. Maybe they'll start to utilize him more if he expresses that's how we want to be used. Because I do think he is right about that point. I think he needs to be used a little bit more creatively. So for me, I'm saying no deal right now. Yes, you should panic a little bit about Elijah Moore, but don't drop him. I think he's still a good stash for your roster. Just don't put him into your lineup quite yet until we see how things play out over the next couple of weeks. So I kind of like a half-ass deal / no deal because I think he's going to be okay, but I also don't think I would count on it necessarily. So that's my stance on Elijah Moore. That's the approach I'm taking personally as an Elijah Moore fantasy manager. The second guy, by far the second most response, was a guy with also the last name Moore. DJ Moore, wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. This offense is a shell of its already awful self from the beginning of the year because we don't have Christian McCaffrey in the fold anymore to take any attention away. But he does have a 25% target share this year. That definitely means something, but it's looking bleak with PJ Walker as the starting quarterback right now. Sam Darnold is probably back in a few weeks, which is apparently the saving grace right now for this offense. Like, we're hoping for Sam Darnold to come back. Like, it is not looking good in Carolina. The only real way out for DJ Moore managers is that DJ Moore gets traded because the Panthers already traded Christian McCaffrey, and I do think they would trade DJ Moore for the right price. But the issue that I think they face is that they want a first-round pick for him. And is Green Bay, is Baltimore, the LA Rams don't even have a first-round pick. Are these teams going to give up a first-round pick for DJ Moore? He's on a team-friendly contract. It's $20 million per year, which sounds like a lot of money. But given what the wide receiver market has been like, I don't think it's actually that much. So to be honest, if a second was already offered for DJ Moore, I think he would have already been traded. I think a team has already offered a second for him. And if they were willing to take a second, I think they would have already traded him. So I think they're not going to trade him because I think they want a first, and I don't think they're going to get it. So for that reason, I'm going to say no deal on DJ Moore. I would panic if I had DJ Moore. Try and offload him amidst these trade rumors. See if you can get somebody to buy in to the fact that he might get traded. Try and go after a Drake London, a Michael Gallup, a Jerry Jeudy type. Even if you have to add a small piece to that deal, I would try and offload DJ Moore. I am absolutely panicked because I don't think he's going to get traded personally. So Moving on to the next player we have here is AJ Dillon. And the reason people are panicking about AJ Dillon is pretty much exactly the reason why I wasn't drafting a lot of AJ Dillon. So I have no exposure to this guy. Everybody's argument was, wow, he's this great handcuff if Aaron Jones gets injured, but he also has this great standalone role. My argument was his standalone value is a little bit overrated by the public. He is RB 31 in points per game right now. And to be honest, that's exactly what I expected, assuming Aaron Jones didn't get injured. So this one is very easy for me because I think the answer is deal. AJ Dillon is what he is. He's a B plus version of Kareem Hunt. He's a great handcuff, but his standalone role is a little bit overvalued because he is pretty much just a touchdown or bust RB3 if you put him into your lineup. But if Aaron Jones misses time, he's obviously got a lot of inherent value as a handcuff, which gives him his league winning ceiling. So if you're ahead in your fantasy league right now and you have a lot of depth on your bench, you have a lot of great wide receiver 3 types on your bench that you're not using, like a Jerry Jeudy, for example, and you want to go after an AJ Dillon for a team that needs production into their lineup, stash him on your bench because elite league winning ceiling options like AJ Dillon down the stretch don't come around at a reduced price like this. And the reason his price is reduced right now is because people are realizing that his standalone role was a little bit overrated to begin with. So now he's actually priced appropriately where he's, yes, he has a bit of a standalone role where you can throw him into your flex in a pinch, but you don't want to rely on AJ Dillon as an every week starter because that's not the type of role he has. His real value comes if Aaron Jones gets injured. So that's where I'm at with AJ Dillon. I would panic a little bit if you think he's going to be a standalone guy, but I don't think he has that type of value. So if people think he's just a handcuff now, go out and acquire him. So another guy that I think is, again, a result of recent news is Deebo Samuel. A lot of people asked, what do we do with Deebo Samuel, right? Is the panic warranted now that Christian McCaffrey is there? Many people are concerned now that Deebo Samuel will no longer have the wing back role in this offense where he's getting carries. He's getting targets because Christian McCaffrey can do that role, right? But my feeling on Deebo Samuel is that this CMC trade benefits everybody involved. And the reason I say that is because Deebo Samuel's efficiency has actually tailed off quite a bit from the league winning season that he had last year. Right now, in PPR points per game, he has 15.2 PPR points per game, which is exactly on pace with how many points he's expected to score, right? His expected fantasy points per game is 15.2. That's what he's actually averaging. So he has regressed as we kind of expected coming into the year with Deebo Samuel. But last year, we know that Deebo Samuel was this ultra efficient, probably going to regress guy, 21.2 actual PPR points per game, comparatively to the 18.5 expected PPR points per game that he actually had last year. So, from a real football schematic standpoint, this offense becomes very difficult to defend because you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Deebo Samuel, you have Brandon Ayuk. All these guys can create after the catch, and then you throw in George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk, who are these like movable chess pieces in this offense as well. So I trust this offense to become more efficient, to become better, to score more points. And as a result, I trust Deebo as the most efficient player in this offense to also make good on his touches. And hey, maybe they use him exclusively at wide receiver now instead of putting him in at carries because we know targets are more valuable than carries. And we know that Deebo Samuel can get open as a wide receiver. So this isn't a one-to-one comparison necessarily, but I just wanted to show you guys what it was like last year when Elijah Mitchell was healthy, because that meant Deebo Samuel was used more as a wide receiver and he was receiving 8 targets per game. And as a result, was more efficient. He was scoring more touchdowns and he was accumulating more yardage. You guys can see he was averaging 8 targets per game, 96 receiving yards per game, as opposed to, being used in more of that wing back role, which we like about Deebo Samuel, but we would prefer him to be mixed into that role, not necessarily be his entire source of fantasy points. So having a solid run game in San Francisco with Christian McCaffrey coming in allows Deebo Samuel to be more efficient at wide receiver. And therefore, I think he's a good buy right now. I think if people are concerned about him, he's definitely somebody that I'm going after. But we can move on to the next player, which is Jerry Jeudy. A lot of you guys expressed concern about Jerry Jeudy. And fair warning, I do have Jerry Jeudy in my home league, so I might be susceptible to looking at this situation with rose-colored glasses. But the way I look at the Denver Broncos is this situation going to get any worse? Like, their second lowest scoring offense in the NFL right now. There is nothing but bad vibes around the Denver Broncos. And Russell Wilson is still saying that he has like wolf's blood or something. It just is not a good situation. But my instinct tells me no deal, right? Don't buy into this situation. It's a tire fire. You don't want anything to do with it. But from an upside perspective, Jerry Jeudy won't ever reach that wide receiver 1 ceiling that we expected coming into the year. And I'm fine with that. But could he still be a top 24 wide receiver if things turn around? Because, I mean, with Russell Wilson, is it possible to suggest that, with a first-year head coach, a new quarterback, some of the injuries that they've had, is it possible this offense gets better as the season goes along? I would say it's more likely that happens rather than them getting out to a hot start. But like I said, it's been nothing but bad vibes around the Denver Broncos right now. So I don't want to be overly optimistic about this situation. I want to take it for, it is what it is. Jerry Jeudy is probably a wide receiver, 30 to 36 right now as the situation currently stands, but could it get a little bit better? For sure. So I'm not necessarily buying into Jerry Jeudy totally, but I do think there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, being that this offense could get a little bit better. It's a first year coach, new quarterback. Maybe things turn around, but again, don't hold your breath. So I'm saying probably no deal on Jerry Jeudy, but I'm not feeling completely firm and definitive. I do think it is very reasonable to panic if you have Jerry Jeudy, and I do have Jerry Jeudy. So I'm definitely a little bit panicked myself. So moving on to the next player we have here, and it's Michael Thomas. And I actually also have Michael Thomas, and I'm ready to be fooled again on Michael Thomas because I think the upside case still exists. So I'm saying, deal. I'm saying go after Michael Thomas in trades. Call me crazy. And again, I'm trying to be as unbiased as I possibly can because I do have this guy on my home league team. But we saw legit wide receiver 2 fantasy production out of Michael Thomas so far this year. And I think the fact that Chris Olave is playing well only helps the offense overall once Jameis Winston comes back. I'm not exactly sure how the quarterback position affects Michael Thomas because I think they're both about the same level of quarterback. But Michael Thomas is the chain mover in this offense. The real reason and the real question we have for Michael Thomas right now is health, because the team said they debated throwing him on IR when he suffered the injury, the foot injury as it's being called now. And the fact that they were contemplating putting him on IR, meaning they expected him to be out at least a month. And he's been out a month. It's been 4 games. It's been 4 weeks. Most fantasy doctors expect him to be back next week. This is a write-up from our buddy Edwin Porras over at fantasypoints.com. He lists here that the injury was initially reported as a turf toe, but the official report steers as a foot injury, basically. They're saying it's a foot injury, not a turf toe, with a league-wide medium return rate of 28 days, according to Edwin's research, and a skill player-specific average of 3 weeks lost to this injury. So it's been 4 weeks. He says that Thomas has a very good chance of returning in week 8. So am I buying into Michael Thomas as like a wide receiver 1 upside type of guy? Probably not. But am I buying into Michael Thomas as a guy that is probably the cheapest he's ever going to be right now because of the injury uncertainty? Yes, I am. I think he's a solid buy low right now if you play in deep leagues like I play in, where you can start 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes, so up to 5 wide receivers into your lineup. So I'm saying deal right now as a guy that you can get as a solid depth piece. So staying in the NFC South, let's move on to 2 players from the same team. You guys expressed concern with Drake London and with Kyle Pitts. The concern is pretty similar, but I do actually have different kind of verdicts for both of these guys. So with Drake London, I'm saying deal. And I've already brought this up already, so I'll keep it brief. Drake London has a 33.1% target share in the Falcons offense right now, which is second only to CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. I know the Falcons basically turned the clock back to 2004, and they're running this archaic 2005 Steelers offense at 22 and a half pass attempts per game, which is the lowest number since the 2005 Steelers. This week against the Bengals, I believe they will pass more because they're playing against an offense that is capable of putting up points. And not only that, but they're actually not run heavy by choice. They're the 22nd ranked run heavy offense in neutral scripts right now. So they are a run heavy offense by nature, but they're not the most run heavy offense of the last 15 years, like the numbers would suggest, the overall pass attempts would suggest. And they're also about a middle of the road offense and pace of play. It's just for by happenstance, they've been leading these games. They haven't run a lot of offensive plays, and it's leading to very, very low volume in this offense, but they've actually just been leading games. It has nothing to do with what they're trying to do. It's just by happenstance how the game scripts have played out. So it'll get better for London. I am very much bought in to Drake London's target share, what he showed at the beginning of the year. Buy low on Drake London for the wide receiver 3 price tag you can get for him now, because his usage suggests wide receiver 1, but because of the offense he plays in, we knock him down to wide receiver 2. So he's a wide receiver 2 for me rest of the season that you can get for wide receiver 3 prices right now. So his teammate, Kyle Pitts, again, another incredibly talented player. And the case is definitely very similar because he has a 23.6% target share, which is top 3 among his position. But the issue is that you need a target share like Drake London's to be relevant in this offense. And the fact that he's sharing targets with a guy like Drake London in this offense means that the pass attempts, the low number of pass attempts affects Kyle Pitts more than it does Drake London because Drake London's commanding more targets. So I'm hitting deal on Kyle Pitts on the talent, but unfortunately, I think it's a no deal from an elite upside standpoint. So what I think you need to treat Kyle Pitts as rest of season for fantasy is a mid tight end 1, not a high end tight end 1 like we thought coming into the year. He's a mid tight end 1. I would rather have, the obvious 2 elite tight ends. I would rather have Dallas Goedert. I'd rather have Zach Ertz right now. Honestly, like the guys that are getting targets in more pass heavy offenses, you have to favor them over Kyle Pitts, despite how good Kyle Pitts is. So I'd be inclined to sell Pitts. If you can get name value on Kyle Pitts and get after a guy like Dallas Goedert or maybe Dalton Schultz plus or something like that, I'm definitely panicked a little bit on Kyle Pitts. I'm less panicked on Drake London, but I am a little bit panicked on Kyle Pitts. So that's how I'm handling the Atlanta situation. Moving on to the Steelers. A lot of you guys expressed concern with Diontae Johnson and with Pat Freiermuth specifically. This offense is 28th in scoring. And it definitely feels like it. These guys have not scored a touchdown yet. Neither player that I just brought up has a touchdown on the season. And that should regress a little bit considering the volume that both Diontae Johnson and Pat Freiermuth see respective to their positions. And Kenny Pickett is a rookie quarterback, right? We should see him improve as the schedule starts to ease up a little bit because the teams that he's played against, the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the last 2 weeks, are good defenses. So I'm confident that he's going to get a little bit better, but I'm also not confident that these guys represent any kind of elite ceiling, right? I'd say elite, I'd say deal for now because these guys are good buy lows right now. But the second I get some good production out of them, maybe start flashing them in trade deals. Because if we get a couple, good games out of Kenny Pickett and Diontae Johnson's, his 11 targets that he keeps getting every week actually materialize into like a 90-yard game and a touchdown, maybe sell him on the open market because I don't think this is going to be a very consistent offense. I don't think this offense is going to be very productive overall. I think they're going to be a bottom 10 offense in the NFL, bottom 15 offense at the very worst. So once I get some production out of these guys, I'm probably looking to sell them, but I do think they're good buy lows right now because I think people are just giving up on this offense, and that represents kind of a value accumulation type of window. Moving on to James Conner, who is actually one of the biggest no deals for me here. I am definitely majorly concerned about James Conner, and the reason I'm concerned is because during the summer I was not in on James Conner. So if you guys were following this channel, you probably didn't draft James Conner because I was not in on him, nor was Danny. I referred to James Conner's season last year as a perfect storm of events. And that's exactly what it felt like because James Conner was able to be really efficient, which is something we never saw from him in his career to that point. He was able to score a lot of touchdowns, which is something we never saw from him in his career to that point. And Chase Edmonds also went down at around the mid-season point, and they didn't have the time to add another piece into the mix. James Conner got a workhorse role down the stretch, and everything was just sunshine and roses for James Conner last year. But this year, he enters the season as a 27-year-old running back, which I expressed concern with coming into the year, with an injury history. And due to the fact that he had cancer in college, he actually is more susceptible to injuries, according to medical doctors that we've talked about in the fantasy space. He's been far less efficient this year as well. Hasn't been scoring the touchdowns, hasn't been as efficient as a receiver because he was very efficient that way last year. And a lot of the guys in his own backfield have been very efficient, like Benjamin, who we saw on Thursday night, have a great game. So with James Conner, I'm saying no deal. The second James Conner comes back, because you have to hold him right now, you're not going to get anything for him if you try and trade him. But the second he comes back into the lineup and he's inserted as the starter, if he has a good game, any type of good game, 50 rushing yards and a touchdown, sell his ass because I don't trust him rest of the season. If you can sell him now just based on where he was drafted and name value, go ahead and do it. I think it is absolutely time to panic about James Conner. I think this is going to be one of the biggest busts in fantasy, to be honest. When we look back at the season, we're going to be like, man, James Conner was dead zone running back, and we elevated him to the third round because of what he did in 2021, but I don't think that upside case exists anymore. So definitely time to panic on those guys. So hopefully you guys, got some value out of this video. Like I said, if you did, leave a like down below, comment any of your thoughts down below. Who are you panicking about? Who are you not panicking about? Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here as well. Make sure to check out our Patreon if you guys want access to our rest of season rankings, our dynasty rankings, our weekly start sit rankings. If you want to be in our Saturday live streams at noon Eastern, we go live every Saturday for our Patreon only live stream so that you guys can get adequate time. We are not rushed in those live streams whatsoever. You guys see us trying to rip through as many questions as possible during our Thursday, our Monday, and our Sunday live streams. During our Patreon live stream, it's a lot more of a chill environment. We're able to do research on the go while we're talking to you guys about your fantasy questions. You guys get a very, very personalized experience that way. So the Patreon link will be down below in the pinned comment if that interests you. Like I said, tons of other benefits as well. Our running back matchup charts, our wide receiver matchup charts, all that kind of stuff. So if that interests you, check it out. But with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.
Why you need the money?